Can I please welcome George Ferguson, Mayor of Bristol, and Steve B, Chairman of the Academy, onto the platform. And they've heard what has been discussed in the last half hour or so. And also they've clearly been at some of the key sessions earlier today where George spoke, and a lot of the issues were coming from people like Wolf Dasking. I think Wolf is back now. What I want to do is open it, so I'm going to hand this mic to someone. Someone want the mic? Anyone want to ask a point or make an observation from what's coming back, either to George in terms of what Bristol might be able to do, or to Steve in terms of how the Academy might take things forward? We will be, it's quite important this session because we will be picking up some of these themes tomorrow morning. Hand up there. Is it Jeff?
I think there's an implicit assumption in a lot of what we've said that everyone in the city has access to digital media, and I think there is a danger of excluding people who economically aren't engaged. And I'd be very interested to hear, George, what thoughts and plans you might have in taking forward the demand of the city to engage people on all levels in all areas.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important point, and we certainly don't underestimate that. And nevertheless, we do move towards being able to communicate with everybody as far as possible through digital means, because it's so much more direct, it's quicker, it's cheaper, it is reactive, it does everything that we want it to do. So I think we do need a big educational program. I'm going to ask Stephen Hilton, who's in the audience, to further answer this, because he is deeply involved with the whole Smart Cities digital city program. I think what is encouraging is that we do have organisations like, and I'm going to say like, but it's a very special one, Noel West Media Centre, which is placed in one of the most challenged parts of South Bristol, that is exciting kids and others who you would never think would be as quickly engaged with these issues as because of their where they live and their level of poverty, and it's raising aspirations in that area about the sort of jobs they can do, the sort of skills that they can acquire, and I think we just need a hell of a lot more of that. But across the city, we are making quite sure that there are cheap and easy means, physical means of people getting to be able to learn to be digitally connected. Stephen, do you want to add anything more to that? If he's just along the road from you, so it's convenient.
Thank you, Mayor. So, in terms of a practical response to overcome lack of physical access to connectivity or to technology, we've had a scheme that the council's created over the last 2-3 years now, where we've taken redundant ICT equipment, so laptops and computers we no longer need in the council, and worked with a social enterprise called Byteback to refurbish them, and with Microsoft to give access to people in the community to these computers. We've given about 4,000 away so far. And I've never been in a position where we've had so many nice letters back to the council, or emails once people are connected. Yeah. We're also letting a wireless concession, so we are using our street furniture and offering it to telecoms providers on the basis that they deliver a degree of free open access for anybody in the city. So we're doing our best to overcome some of the disadvantage around access to technology and connectivity. But I think, as the Mayor said, the real key is around finding out what people want to use the technology for, and working with organisations such as the very fantastic Northwest Media Centre to work out how to work at the grassroots level to really engage people in all of the opportunities that many people in this room already get from that use of technology.
Yeah. And there are job centres, there are places for the homeless where a lot of these Byteback computers, I think they're sold for about 30 quid or something, aren't they, are available. And it's really encouraging to go and visit some of these community centres, again, in the most challenged parts of Bristol, where people are using computers for the first time to seek jobs, and they are getting really engaged with it. I'm very hopeful that there will be a rapid increase in the or decrease in the lack of connectivity for some people, for most people across the city.
Thanks, George. So proactive, educative, and affordable seems to be a sort of theme coming out there.
Cheap bikes, cheap bites, both.
Oh, very good. Sound bites. Yeah. Can we? There's one in here, and then there's one in the middle at the back. Can you see the hand? Yeah, Andy, and then I think, yeah, you're first.
Thank you. The question is for both of you, actually, but over the last couple of days, I heard a lot about the benefits of design review. And I know Bristol has a good design review process, and there are stuff across the country that are doing it. But talking to someone from Sheffield who organises one, talking to someone from the HCA that's involved in them, and talking to someone who does ones in Bristol, the common theme that they all seem to struggle with is getting people to go early enough to make them really worthwhile. And I wonder whether, if you're going to be a test case, Bristol, how are you going to encourage the timid developers and timid designers out there that obviously don't like showing their felt tip pen scribbles or whatever it is early enough to make a difference?
Well, actually, we are on top of this, and I have reacted to the need for us to do this, and both Barra and I are very keen to get in there earlier. It has been a very reactive system so far, and planning applications are usually too far down the line to make the fundamental change. The fundamental change is usually getting the right design team, and by the time it's in planning, it's difficult to change that. And looking at our own design, for instance, we have 28,000 council homes that we own ourselves. We want to increase from virtually zero the number of council houses that we build in the city, and it's essential we get that right. So we have set up a little team of 3 to be much more proactive, and they've been going through a process recently of starting earlier in the process. It's catch up a bit on some of that, but we are, I think we are putting ourselves in a position where we will be able to intervene with design review or design input much earlier on than we have done.
Steve, you've been involved in the Farrell review.
The Farrell review, one of the recommendations there was that we should move to a system of place reviews. Place being an acronym as well as a noun now, which is an interesting approach. And the Academy is talking to CABE and to the Farrell review team, and we will be progressing that in the future to try and help. And of course, one of the strengths of the Academy is that although there may be a core of built environment professionals within it, we are successfully developing the Academy into a much broader, into an organisation with a much broader perspective of what place means and and the sorts of communities and individuals that it means things to. And I think the examples of the discussions that we've had, the debates we've had this morning and this afternoon, have shown the breadth of understanding that we are now looking at and embracing in relation to urbanism. And I think if that can be built into the early stages of design review or place review, and we move away from this very architectural approach, which is not just in terms of what we're looking at, but the whole thing has been built so far on an architectural crit. And I think that puts off as many people as it, more people than it attracts. And I think there is a scope for developing design review into a more consistent, more inclusive and more useful upstream approach to engaging everybody with what places are meant to be and how they can be.
And it's less to do with fenestration and more to do with density. For instance, a good design review might double the density and pays for itself. It really pays for itself several times over, whatever that cost of that review may be, if you succeed in upping the density in the process and making a better place.
So your theme of value, not simply cost. Simon, you got the last submission before we break at this stage.
Bob started his presentation with a picture of Temple Meads. Now, I worked on Temple Meads over 10 years ago, and the biggest stumbling block, may I say to anything major was English heritage, where Stephen probably was working at the time, and the problems of making any radical change to make a real place of that station. You are extremely constrained and you have a lot of difficult problems to solve. But if you can't touch it, you are hamstrung. You won't be able to do anything. And it needs a bold approach, and I'm sure George is up for that. So what's your reaction? It's a place that defines Bristol as you arrive.
Are you talking about the specifics of Templemead Station or the generic approach in the UK or England to heritage?
Taking it as a specific, not because I want a solution tonight, but I'd like to get a feel that there's a radical approach that can be done. The Academy, the Mayor and others can work together to make that, because that is a very important point, which if you're going to transform Bristol, you have to address.
Okay, bearing, I'm going to put this in the context. Bearing in mind that one of our finalists for place or top 10 is St Pancras Station, is it not? How bold might one be able to be with somewhere like Templemead Station?
Well, I was going to start at St Pancras and King's Cross and say English heritage have hardly been precious there. I think they have been bold, and I think it's really paid off. And I actually don't believe that English heritage are going to be restrictive if they see the right approach. And that is, I think we have the responsibility to come up with an approach that is inspiring, and then they will react well. But I think they're going to be defensive until they see that. And but I would be, I'd be pretty irritated if they carry on being defensive if we've shown them that we can have a much, much more inspiring sense of arrival. At the moment, I'm embarrassed by the arrival into Bristol. I did say to Cameron, if I was in government, which I shall never be and have no desire to be in, I'd want to be the Minister for First Impressions, because I do think that arriving at a place is always defines that place. You will always remember that first arrival. So we're going to get rid of that bloody great roundabout. We're going to we're going to enter the city after you come on the electrified line from London in 80 minutes instead of 120 minutes or whatever. No, it isn't. It's 100 minutes at the moment. Then you will exit from the Brunel passenger shed facing the city instead of coming down this incline towards that horrible block that is partly Holiday Inn and partly something else. And there will be a proper sense of arrival such as you experience when you arrive in Sheffield, for instance, which has a great new sense of arrival. I think there have been some tremendous changes to our stations in the UK, and Bristol lags behind, and we're determined to learn from the best, not the worst.
There are very few historic places that can't be changed intelligently if you understand the true nature of where the historic significance lies. It wasn't Brunel that designed the Holiday Inn or the taxi stand. A good appreciation of what's most historically significant, what needs to be kept and what can be adapted and changed, and how to change it in a way which recognises the historic significance of the buildings. And it's not just the buildings, of course, it's the very presence of that use that makes Bristol, in part, the historic city that it is, and reinforcing the historic use of the station is as important as, in my opinion, and I don't speak for English heritage anymore, the use is as historically important as the buildings. And so an intelligent approach to that, I'm sure, we've got the example of King's Cross and St Pancras. There are loads of examples of historic buildings that have been radically adapted for new uses, new expectations, new standards throughout the country. And I think, generally speaking, that English heritage is getting better at that.
And we'll accept just 1/10 of the money that was spent on St Pancras and King's Cross, and we'll make a really good job of it.
There you are, Simon, and I hope Wolf will be happy with that too. The answer is intelligent urbanism with careful interventions and transformation. At that stage, I'm going to draw this part of the proceedings to a close and call upon Steve to introduce our guest presenter. But can you please thank both our guests for that session?